Hey guys, hoping all is well with everybody. In this video we're going to be continuing the stories of heroic dogs by Lou Jefferson, and this story is called Stubby and Convoy. This is the last story of the book, so I hope you guys have really enjoyed this read along, and as always I'll be showing you any pictures that we come across. But let's get started with the story of Stubby and Convoy. America entered World War I on April 1917. In July of that year, a mongrel dog, a Bullier Terrier type, wandered the streets eating from the garbage pails of New Haven, Connecticut. The dog had a sturdy, solid body connected to a small head, stub tail, and short legs. One day he appeared on the Yale parade ground where an infantry regiment was undergoing basic training before being sent to war. Their barracks were nearby. The camp was close to where the Yale Bull currently sits. The soldiers on the field were members of the 102nd Regiment, 26th Infantry Division. The regiment was made from two divisions that were incomplete, the 1st and 2nd Connecticut Divisions. So the Army put a 0 between the 1 and the 2 and came up with the 102nd as the name for the new regiment. The dog kept coming back. One of the soldiers, John Robert Conroy, liked the dog and started slipping him some food. Others followed suit. Soon the dog was sleeping in the barracks with them. Conroy picked the name Stubby for the stub on the tail, and he tried to wag so vigorously. Stubby was born for the military. He learned what different bugle calls were for. He managed to stay with them when they practiced marching quick changes of direction. They even trained him to salute. In September or October 1917, the unit went to Newport News, Virginia, and Conroy sneaked Stubby onto the train under his long army coat. He did the same thing to get Stubby on board the ship that was taking them to France. At this point, the story was conflicting legends. One is that Conroy hid Stubby in a coal bin, and that he was discovered, he saluted and melted the hearts of those who found him. The other rendition is that Conroy was with Stubby when some officers discovered the dog. Conroy spoke out, "Present arms," and Stubby saluted. Whatever the story, Stubby was detected but allowed to remain on board. His effect on the soldiers' morale quickly earned him a permanent place as the regiment's dog. War dogs. Men have probably always used dogs to gain an upper hand in their disputes. Before gunpowder was invented, the dogs themselves were the weapon. Packs of dogs were trained to attack. Germany used about 30,000 dogs in World War I. The Allies close to 25,000. Unlike its allies, the United States had trained no dogs for war. The U.S. paid for some sentry and messenger dogs trained by the Allies. Dogs were particularly useful in the trench warfare. By the end of the war, there had been at least 24,000 miles of trenches dug. Their superior senses of smell, sight, and hearing made dogs ideal for sentry and scouting duties. The sentry dogs stayed with one handler and magnified the power of a sentry. Scout dogs went with the small patrols. These were silent dogs, trained to point and to alert the patrol of danger. Messenger dogs were used to deliver messages between the different lines of trenches or back to their command control. They ran faster than a man could and were lower and less noisy. The Germans more than any other trained dogs to go into no man's land at a time too dangerous for the men. The dogs would seek out the wounded and carried saddle packs with medicines. These dogs would also stay and comfort the dying. Any of the dogs used in the trenches could also double as mascots. Just having a dog around could comfort the men. Stubby in France. America had come to the war underprepared. When Stubby's company reached France, they were put with experienced French forces for training in trench warfare. The French were not at first impressed by their allies, but the Yanks learned quickly. The regiment's men became fierce fighters. In case in point, one day a force of Germans much larger than they crept upon them in a town. The cooks were the first to detect them. One cook delayed their attack by swamping them with boiling water. Another cook attacked with his cleaver and killed 2 of the enemy. The Americans won that fight. Stubby's war began in early February 1918. The loud noise of war was ever present. Noise bothers a lot of dogs, leading to whining and burrowing for relief. The war noises infuriated Stubby. He howled in rage when the round of shooting started. After being gassed once and learning about the chemical firsthand, the next time Stubby detected a mere sniff of it, he tore around the trenches, waking his men, even biting them, to get them to put their gas masks on. Stubby's face wasn't a good shape for gas masks, so after he alerted the men, he buried his face until the gas lifted. And here's a picture of Stubby in his greatcoat. Stubby could also hear better than the soldiers, so alerted the men when an artillery shell was coming their way. And after a while, he could even detect when Germans were coming out of their trenches to attack. Stubby's intelligence grew. He learned to tell the difference between Allied and German uniforms, and he could tell whether English or German was being spoken. When the Allies were marching German prisoners of war near Stubby, they had to tie him back. He wanted to tear them apart. In April 1918, Stubby was badly wounded in his chest and led by a shrapnel from a hand grenade which landed him in a Red Cross hospital. When recovering, he went about cheering up the men before he went back to the front. At this time he began to hide from the noise of the big guns, but came right back on duty when they stopped. In addition to his duties in the trenches, Stubby also ventured into no man's land to help his wounded. If men could walk, he led them back. If he needed some assistance, Stubby would stay and bark until someone came. If he were dying, Stubby stayed with him. After one battle, the women of the town made Stubby a camo shirt embroidered with their flags of the Allied countries. As Stubby earned his medals and chevrons, they were added to his shirt. The Argonne. The Battle of the Argonne Forest was the final campaign of the war, fought along a huge front. Stubby was busy with his duties when he heard someone in what had been an unoccupied section of his trenches. When he went to investigate, he surprised a German spy who had come to map the area. The spy made a mistake. He attempted to calm Stubby down by speaking to him. He spoke to him in German, and Stubby attacked. Stubby nipped him, and the spy left the trench and ran for it. Stubby leapt and got a firm bite of his backside, brought the spy down, and kept him there until his men came. The spy wore a medal called the Iron Cross. The men pinned it to Stubby's coat for his reward. Later the medal was lost. Stubby's commander nominated him for promotion from corporal to sergeant for his bravery. After that event, Stubby was gassed several more times, but fortunately Stubby survived the war. He enjoyed a long stay in France waiting for a trip home. He even got to shake hands with President Wilson. Finally, Convoy took Stubby on board a troop ship again, perhaps less furtively this time. Back home. Stubby had fought in 17 battles in 4 major campaigns: Aisne-Marne, Campagne Marne, Saint-Mihiel, and Meuse-Argonne. Stubby returned home in the spring of lots of attention. He marched in parades, leading many of them, and continued to make public appearances until he died. The press loved Stubby. Even the New York Times reported on Stubby, his medal from perishing, his death, and the recovery in 1931 of a lost painting of him. Stubby was made a member of the American Red Cross, the YMCA, and the American Legion. He was elected hero dog at a Boston dog show. In 1921, there was a ceremony to honor veterans of Stubby's regiment. As part of the ceremony, Stubby was given a medal by his former Commander-in-Chief, General John J. Pershing. Solid gold, etched with a simple Stubby, the Hero Dog Medal was provided by the precursor of the Humane Society. Pershing pinned the medal on Stubby's camel shirt after giving a speech praising his bravery. Stubby was welcome everywhere, from post hotels to the White House. He met 3 presidents: Woodrow Wilson, Calvin Coolidge, and Warren G. Harding. Robert Conroy kept Stubby and took the dog with him when he went to Georgetown to study law. The dog, now famous, became the college mascot, amusing the fans at halftime with his antics with a football. And here is a picture of Sergeant Stubby. After college, Conroy worked for several federal intelligence agencies and for a Connecticut congressman. Stubby died in his arms on March 16, 1926. Conroy had the dog's skin mounted by a taxidermist, with Stubby's ashes inside the form. In 1956, he donated Stubby complete with his coat, medals, and a scrapbook, and press clippings to the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. Among his medals, Stubby was awarded the Victory Medal, the Purple Heart, the Republic of France Grande War Medal, and the Medal of Verdun. Afterword. The dogs in this book helped their humans quite differently. While some performed heroic actions during wartime, others supported their humans with their simple, cheerful presence. What amazed me was how much of what they did wasn't from being trained to do it. They instinctively knew what was needed of them. The dogs at St. Bernard Pass, not the monks, trained their pups to rescue travelers. And if, like Almo, they were trained in specific abilities, they still went far beyond their training, using their own brains and hearts to support their humans. Chips even went against his training to protect his men. Almost every day we read of some unusual feat a dog has done. As I was writing this, I googled dog saves, and today it was a baby porpoise caught in the rocks. Some days it's a dog jumping in front of a car to save a baby. I just hope we deserve our dogs. And that is the end of the stories of Heroic Dogs by Lou Jefferson. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story of true stories of incredible courage and unconditional love from man's best friend. I look forward to seeing you guys in my next read-along, but until then, I hope you guys have a great day. Please take good care and stay safe. Thanks for watching.